So this article came out on Friday, but Saturday today. So yeah, always record in advance. Um, so this article came out, and it was shared by Oxford for Europe. And honestly, I think it asks, I think, a very valid question, and I also think it puts forward a very good solution as well, which is one I have advocated for as well many times, and that is to organize, get involved. It was only last week I made a video about, hey, if we want to advocate our stance for rejoining, then we have to give the MPs in Parliament space to be able to talk about Brexit, knowing that there isn't going to be this massive acrimony almost fallout from it. Because a lot of MPs do still worry about, even Labour still worries about the Brexit shockwaves. Do they still exist? Is this still a thing? We've seen this with Starmer's reset. It was the Ming Vast strategy of the, of the general election campaign played out across Europe. So it's difficult to know, of course, what Starmer ultimately is eventually going to do, or what they are going to do. But we do know there are a lot of very pro-European MPs in Parliament. We have to give them support when they speak out, when they say, hey, Brexit is a problem. We've got to go on Twitter, support them, say, hey, excellent for calling that out. Wish, my MP would, etc., would do the same. Write to your MP, get them to support this. There's a lot of stuff, of course, we need to do and sort of organize about this. And one thing it brings up, and I think, hey, maybe we should start to do it, is to copy what Nigel Farage did. Like I say, in a moment, we'll see this article. I think it's got a good point. I think it's got a very, very good point on that. So before we do begin, though, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, as always, there is a link below to my Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. This comes from The Economist. And like I say, I think valid question, really valid question on this. Why are Remainers so weak in post-Brexit Britain? So, it first became obvious that Keir Starmer wanted to be Prime Minister on September the 25th, 2018. The Labour Party was holding its annual conference in Liverpool. Theresa May's government was slowly disintegrating over Brexit. Under Jeremy Corbyn, Keir's predecessor as party leader, Labour was keeping its position on holding a second referendum purposefully opaque. From the stage, Keir shattered that ambiguity, departing from his approved script with the words, and nobody is ruling out Remain as an option. And pro-EU delegates gave him a long, defiant ovation. A year and a half later, they would now elect him as their leader on a promise to, quote, defend free movement. And unreconciled Remainers did not stop Brexit. They did shape the Labour Party. These days, Keir Starmer is running out quite a lot. Not just rejoining the EU in his lifetime, but the single market and customs union too. His reset with the European Union, with the European leaders this summer, has been very energetic and sincere. But on a visit to Berlin last month, a suggestion from Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor for Youth Mobility, was frostily rebuffed. The opportunity to spend a fortnight awkwardly hosting your teenager's German pen friend is not much of a compensation for Brexit, but it is not one that Keir is yet ready to grant. Therein lies one of the strangest puzzles of British politics. And I agree absolutely on this. It is so strange when we know the polls, we've seen the polls time after time after time. Yet, where are the parties really on this? Where are they? And ultimately, I think it really comes down to the pro-Europeans as a bloc, we need to move and we need to organize. Like I say, it gets into this later, but I do think they've hit on a really good point on this. So the pro-European cause is popular. Its advocates are, of course, inefficient. It has millions of supporters, but little hard influence in Westminster. Its power is latent, not manifest. Why? I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. We have millions of supporters, but no influence in Westminster. Power just completely untapped. What's going on here? Why is this happened? But who knows? Maybe this is worth bringing up in on tonight's politics social. So maybe I will brought this up. We'll see. Anyway, a mass movement, of course, in favour of EU membership was mostly absent for Britain's 47 years in the club. It did not materialise in the referendum of 2016, but the chaos that followed the vote radicalised a class of different comfortable voters who turned out for a huge march in odd berets. Its peak, and it obviously peaked at People's Vote, which ran a campaign for a second referendum and raised almost £100,000 a week. It's an absolute fortune in British politics from email donations alone. That is very true. That is very true. It just goes to show you the sheer power that is there, that is lying dormant at the moment. So rather than melt away, hostility to Brexit has since risen. Voters think that it was a wrong decision by a margin of 24 points. And for some, it is now hardened into a resilient new form of political identity. More than a quarter of Remain supporters say that the criticism that their cause felt like a personal insult, according to a 2023 British election study. In a survey of 13% of British adults, this tribe now had a hardcore Remainer is now much larger than the equivalent of even Leavers or Labour or Conservative voters. Just imagine that for a second. There are more people who identify as Remainers than Leavers, Labour, or Conservative voters. This is insane that we are not doing this. I think there is a fundamental problem here. Somewhere in British politics, something has gone wrong somewhere. Maybe we haven't put the correct cog in the machine yet, but it's missing something somewhere. It really is. And it just goes to show you that if we have that we are missing something fundamentally somewhere. And it gets into it in a moment, which I'm really glad that they do. So some folk are obviously very concerned that Keir's electoral coalition, some of its 78% of Labour voters, say that they would rejoin the European Union, and 69% said that they would favour a referendum within 5 years. Only a third say that the matter is now definitely settled. It is true that the issue has fallen as a priority for Labour voters since the Brexit years, but they still rank Europe alongside immigration and education ahead of crime and tax as a national priority. Starmer contends now that Britain is now tired of hearing about Brexit, and for many of supporters, that is just not true. And once again, if you are, again, pro-European and you're a Remainer, like me, I keep on banging that drum. And, I'm not going to stop banging that drum. I know many of you do feel that same way like me as well. But I agree. There's almost a sense of, frustration here that you can see that amount of just potential that for some reason or another is just not being used. And it is frustrating. It is frustrating to see, when we see this. So to see how a passionate tribe now sitting deep in the base of a governing party can jolt government policy in their favour, and this is where it gets, maybe we should start copying Nigel Farage. Consider how Nigel Farage mobilised a once fringe cause of conservative Euroscepticism. What would it take for Remainers to do the same? Clear objectives would be a start. Britain's constellation of now pro-EU groups disagree on whether to support a gradual softening of Brexit or go for the panacea of seeking to rejoin. They differ too on whether Keir Starmer is now their best ally or about to sell them out. This isn't new. If you've been part of this movement for a while, you know one of the big reasons why the People's Vote campaign fell apart. It was just it was unbelievable. It was such a strong movement and then fell apart into pieces. And it is a tragedy that happened. But we're not going to be talking about that today. Who knows? Maybe we need to get someone on to talk about that and what happened and why that happened, but maybe another time. But this is again where I do agree with the author here again. Some of Mr. Farage's ruthlessness would help. Before it even had a chance to defeat Brexit, the People's Vote defeated itself in a feud between the followers of Peter Mandelson, a smooth former Eurocrat, and Roland Rudd, an even smoother lobbyist. The British chapter of the European Movement, a pressure group founded in 1949, is now more disposed to lurking in the corridors of power than persuading people to go a bit further. Than being a Farage's street movement, says Nick Harvey, its head. The Remainer Brigade is now good at churning out PDFs on the future of chemicals regulation, but rather less effective at getting politicians to read them. They ought to be a solvable problem in Westminster, a place awash with professional lobbyists employed by everyone from cat shelters to the sun cream industry. Again, they're not wrong. They are not wrong on that. So, what they lack most is a toehold in Parliament. The Liberal Democrats dialed back their support for Europe as they pursued Tory voters in the general election in July, though that may again shift during this Parliament. Labour has, of course, lined up behind Keir thus far. Many MPs found the Brexit schism traumatic. The Labour movement for Europe, a caucus that has been marginalised, but that can change. It took 18 months before David Cameron experienced his first big EU rebellion of his premiership. And I said this last time. We're only in, if you think about it, almost 4 weeks, really, Labour have actually had and been in power, actually doing stuff. We've got a further 4 more years. And as they bring up, they are right. The first big rebellion for David Cameron was 18 months. There's a lot of more time to go. And as I've said before, it's not the Tories that are in charge now. It's Labour. It's our guys that are in charge now. We can reach them. We can help push for that change we want to see. So, back to this. So, imagine that Keir then resets flops. His polling now further decays. His grip on the party weakens. Then the pro-European banner may be a tempting one for a disgruntled rival then to pick up. If the Labour left was as cunning as Keir says, one wag and they would develop an interest in Brussels. It's not too beyond the realms of possibility. Like I say, who knows? They say a week is a long time in politics, a year is an eternity. And just look how much change we have had going back to January at the start of this year. Who knows where we may be this time in December. So, could happen. So, let's finish this off. So, the mere fact of Keir's visit to Berlin prompted headlines including fury erupts as Keir Starmer's capitulation from the Express and, of course, Labour's Brexit betrayal will lose them the next election from the Telegraph. The emotions of the Eurosceptics were vital to understanding the Tory government. But for the Labour government, whose supersized majority now rests on a very fragile 34% share of the vote, the thing that matters is not the fury of the tribal leavers, but the disappointment of the tribal remainers. For them, snubbing Mr. Schultz over the youth mobility sparks not the caution, but of recklessness. A movement that helped, of course, make Keir Starmer's career, but could also help unmake it. Were they more organized and more ruthless, Remainers would be dangerous. And that last line bears repeating. Were we more organized and we were a bit more ruthless, how dangerous would a force in politics would we be? I mean, maybe it's time that we went and got all the heads of people in charge of these European movements and got them together. Maybe we go and we sign a charter. Maybe we have our own, I don't know, declaration of intent. You know, maybe it's time that we got together, because there does seem to be a lot of you know, we have all these different groupings and etc. Maybe it's time that we started to really mobilize and started to knit ourselves together to have a really defined goal. And maybe we have to be ruthless. Maybe we have to be really ruthless. Maybe we have to go, all you soft, you softeners of Brexit, you're either going to be on our rejoin train or not at all, because this train is about to leave the station, and if you're not on it, we'll see you at the referendum. Hey, there's a lot to be said about the ruthlessness in politics. Sometimes you've got to be ruthless. Maybe that's where we have to be. Maybe we do have to be a lot more ruthless in politics when it does come to this. I mean, there's a lot in that article. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of really frustrating sense as well when I sort of first read it. And I'm like, yeah, we are, when we think about it, quite a powerful movement. But we've got to get organized. We've got to have a goal. We've got to have a destination and check boxes of how we reach that goal. And we need to get organized. I think that is the clarion call that now needs to go out. And maybe it's we have that conference again of all the bigwigs get together and we decide that, and then something comes from that and we go for it. Because as I said, that last line really bears repeating. If we were more organized and more ruthless, Remainers would be dangerous. And I will leave you with that thought, because, oh boy, that does really worth repeating on that. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. Leave a comment down below to let me know what you think as well on this, because I'd be really interested to know what you guys think, your guys' thoughts on this as well. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, we'll see you all next time.